Warning! This entire video discusses spoilers for the film Spider-Man Homecoming. If you have not seen this movie, I would ask that you please turn off this video, go check out that epic film, and then come back and check out this video after you've seen the movie. You have been warned. Greetings and salutations, world. I am the Bearded Con Man, and welcome to the spoiler discussion of Spider-Man Homecoming. Right, spoilers. Full disclosure on this film, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Hopefully I made that clear enough. Alright, so let's start from the top. The Vulture. Adrian Toomes, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity, is revealed to be a construction worker actually after the Battle of New York. He's cleaning up all the mess that Chitauri and the Avengers left behind in the big brawl at the end of that film when a government entity comes into the room, and they reveal themselves to be Damage Control, which, if you're familiar with the comics, that is a group that is called in to actually clean up after all these superhero battles in major cities. They specialize in superhero, supervillain showdown cleanups. But in this case, they're kind of more on the jerky side. Adrian and his team are honest workers. You know, they have a city contract and they're more or less told that they're immediately off of the job. They need to turn in any and all alien technology that they had pulled from the wreckage, the whole 9 yards. So our film begins with complete understanding and why Adrian Toomes goes on to become the Vulture in this continuity. It's revealed that not only did they keep some of the alien technology, but they have built it into equipment, super weapons, and all sorts of crazy stuff that they sell on the black market. And with the technological advances that they've made, they pull off super heists to get even more alien technology and equipment to build even more super weapons and equipment. It's a brilliant plan. And in a way, it makes Adrian Toomes an actual scavenger, so he has a literal reason for his alias as the Vulture. He figures out who Peter is through just deductive reasoning, also tons of exposition by his daughter, in that Peter is always where Spider-Man is, but he's nowhere to be found when Spider-Man shows up. It was a brilliant, dread-filled scene, and I loved how it was handled. And the reveal that he's even Liz's father, I didn't even see that twist coming. It was brilliant, and I loved it. There was a moment where you thought that they were going to kill him off, like they do with every other villain, but Peter actually saves him from the wreckage, and I love that. I love that they did not kill that character off, and they geared him up to return in future films, which he definitely will, judging by the end of the film, and we'll get to that part here in a minute. Let's move into the Spider-Man side of things. The opening title sequence for Marvel Studios with the Spider-Man original 60s theme redone as this epic orchestrated score by, I believe the name is Michael Giacchino. I believe that's how you say his last name. But oh man, when that music started to play, I lost it. I was so excited, I was jumping in my seat. I felt tears of joy welling up because it just brought home the fact that Spider-Man is home. We are getting a Marvel Studios Spider-Man movie. It set the tone perfectly. And it was a beautiful touch, so thank you for that. Now, as far as Peter goes, the movie picks up with a vlog from Peter that takes place somewhere in the actual storyline of Captain America Civil War, where he is actually met by Happy Hogan and he's brought to Berlin to face off against Captain America. You find out how he got his epic red and blue suit from Tony, which was an amazing reveal. You also get to see the homemade suit for the first time. And so to see that it's actually Peter vlogging his actual adventure to Berlin, facing off against Captain America, and actually shooting scenes from the actual fight in the airport, It was amazing. Uncle Ben is never actually mentioned in this movie, and I think that was very smart on Marvel's part to not retread Spider-Man's origins. We pick up with Peter when he's an inexperienced Spider-Man, and we go from there. But there is one little piece that Uncle Ben is actually inadvertently referred to, and that's when Peter is talking to Ned. Ned wants to tell everyone, including his Aunt May, and Peter says to Ned that he cannot do that to Aunt May after everything she's been through. And Ned immediately backs down and agrees that they would keep his secret identity a secret. So to the fans out there, they know what everything she's been through means. So it was very well handled, and it established that, Uncle Ben did die. That origin is there, but we're moving on. That leads me to the next character, Ned Leeds. And Ned is Peter's best friend in this MCU continuity. And he's great. He's the comedic relief. He's the guy in the chair, as he likes to call himself. And he's a great gateway between Peter juggling his secret identity as Spider-Man and his life as Peter Parker. It's nice having that best friend who knows that secret and can kind of understand and help him in his double life. So I really like what they did with the character. For those of you that are familiar with the comics, it's a big deviation actually from who Ned is in the comics. In the comics continuity, Ned Leeds is actually a reporter at the Daily Bugle. Peter and him become friends through their mutual employment at the Daily Bugle, but they're not really on the best friends growing up together in high school level. And eventually Ned is unfortunately brainwashed by the Hobgoblin. He takes his place and ultimately gets killed, but I doubt that we'll get down that road, because this version of Ned Leeds actually seems like he's more modeled after directly Genki, who is Miles Morales' best friend in high school. And it's very similar. He knows his secret identity, he keeps it a secret, and he's more or less Miles' confidant and the guy in the chair more or less in that regard as well. So the parallels are definitely there, and I can see the influence of Genki in this version of Ned Leeds, and it works great. Liz, who is, if you guys are familiar with the comics, Liz Allen, I guess Liz Toombs, as it's so mind-blowingly revealed when Adrian actually opens the door when Peter goes to pick her up for the homecoming dance. And it makes sense. They never actually did say her last name at all through the movie. She was just referred to as Liz. But for the comic book fans, we knew it was Liz Allen. And I loved that they used Liz as Peter's first love interest, just like she was in the comics. Never in a million years would I expect them to break the mold and actually follow the comics in that regard, because when you think of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, you immediately think of Mary Jane Watson or Gwen Stacy. So that was awesome to see that they actually went the route and following the comics and giving Peter a different, and dare I say it, his original love interest. That was great. The next love interest for Peter, which I knew from the beginning that Zendaya's character Michelle was actually the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Mary Jane Watson. And unfortunately, it was the same situation we ran into when Star Trek Into Darkness came out, and they said Benedict Cumberbatch is not Khan, when in all actuality, he ended up being that way. So for me, for them to vehemently deny that she was actually this version of, Michelle was actually Mary Jane Watson, it was very frustrating to me when ultimately I'm watching the movie unfold, and when it's ultimately revealed that she says, "My friends call me MJ." And don't get me wrong, I love Zendaya's character in this film. She was funny, she was quirky, I just loved how she had like that attitude about her. I knew from the get-go she was Mary Jane Watson. Love Zendaya's take on Michelle, ultimately MJ. Not really a fan that her name actually isn't Mary Jane, it's Michelle. That's kind of odd to me, but I'll let it go. I'll let it slide. All right, let's talk Easter eggs. In the Midtown School of Science and Technology, when Peter first walks in and you see paintings of famous scientists, legendary scientists on the wall, first one being Albert Einstein. If you look closely, you also see two very familiar faces on that wall. Howard Stark and Dr. Abraham Erskine, both Marvel legends from the age of Captain America and the start of the SSR. To take it a step further, actually, we see Peter in his classroom. There are pictures of well-known scientists above the chalkboard, and to the far right there's a picture of Dr. Bruce Banner as well. So I love to see the incorporation of these brilliant minds within the Marvel Cinematic Universe being celebrated and recognized in Peter's school of science and technology. Also, we got another little Easter egg of Betty Brant, who is actually a junior anchor on the school news for the Midtown Science and Technology. And that was a very nice nod. If you're familiar with the comics at all, or even the original Sam Raimi movies, Betty Brant is actually a reporter slash secretary at the Daily Bugle. And she's actually one of Peter's love interests in the comics as well. I'm not really sure if they'll retread that or not, but it was awesome to see not only Betty Brant in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also doing some type of journalism in that world as well, albeit for the school news. It was a very nice little nod. The other big Easter eggs in this movie were the villains. The Tinkerer, who is actually the mastermind behind creating these alien technology, weapons and equipment and super powered items. That was a nice little touch, and the Tinkerer is someone who does exactly that in the Marvel Comics. We also got to see the Shocker, and if you take a close look at the original Shocker, as briefly as he held on to that title, his sweater is actually a direct reference to the Shocker's classic costume in the comics, and I love that. After he's vaporized by the Vulture for his insubordination, and the second Shocker takes up the mantle, who's actually the true Shocker in the comics, Herman Schultz. I was really excited because that means that we've established kind of a lower level, but also a really good villain for Spider-Man to be seen in future films. Next, we got an epic reveal, Donald Glover being in this film, which for the longest time he was everyone's pick to be Miles Morales in a Spider-Man film, which I would have been 100% behind. We kind of got a semi-win with that because it's revealed that Donald Glover is Aaron Davis, also known as the Prowler. Now, if you're familiar with the Prowler at all, that character was actually in the original comics known as Hobby Brown. And Hobby Brown was a super criminal that had built a technological suit. Granted, he has a little bit of a flair for the theatrical in his super suit. I mean, it's a green and purple super suit with a long flowing purple cape. But it has all of these technological gadgets that allow him to pull off these ultimate heists with somewhat superhuman style capabilities. He can climb up walls. He also has, all these different gases. He's a really cool villain, and he's actually one of my personal favorites in the comics. It is pretty awesome though, because Hobby actually turns over a new leaf and becomes one of the good guys. He gets a little bit more of a tactical suit, loses the cape, and he actually joins forces with Spider-Man, learning Peter's secret identity and working with him directly on all sorts of missions, even subbing in for Spider-Man when Peter Parker needs to be seen in a place. So it's really cool to see what they've done with the character in the current continuity, and I'm hoping it's a sign of things to come. Now, this version of the Prowler is actually the Ultimate Comics, the Ultimate Marvel Comics continuity, and his name is Aaron Davis. And Aaron Davis in the Ultimate Comics is actually the uncle of Miles Morales. So we got a double reveal. Not only does the Prowler exist in this universe, and we actually saw his alias on his rap sheet as the Prowler, and he also has a penchant for some super climbing equipment when he meets up under the bridge when he wants to pull off this deal. We also get the little piece of dialogue when Spider-Man catches up with him, to track down the bad guys, that he has a nephew he wants to protect from the possibility of super-powered weapons being out on the streets. And that nephew is Miles Morales. It's such an awesome nod, because that means not only does Miles exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you're not gonna drop that little Easter egg and not actually make something come of it later down the road. So we will at some point see Miles Morales on the big screen, and who knows, maybe even web slinging right next to Peter Parker in a future film. Wouldn't that be amazing? So awesome. Another big villain reveal was Mac Gargan. And if you're familiar with Mac Gargan, he is also known as the Scorpion. And for the fans that didn't know, there was a huge tattoo right here on his neck that drove home the fact that, oh yeah, this is the Scorpion. And that is amazing, because for the first time ever, we are establishing the Scorpion as a villain in a Spider-Man film and a future threat for our webhead down the road. Other Easter eggs that I noticed, Captain America's PSAs for the Midtown School of Science and Technology, both in PE class as well as detention. Those were great. Even his super meta PSA at the after credits scene. Some people will consider that to be the biggest Richard move on Marvel's part for people waiting until after the credits, but for me, I think it's brilliant. It was so unexpected. It was really funny. Talking about patience, well done. Well played, Marvel. Well played. Something that made me really excited, actually, and maybe a lot of people didn't pick up on it, but I immediately did. The scene where Spider-Man is facing off against the Vulture, and he gets completely crushed under the rubble when Adrian brilliantly brings the building down around him and makes his escape. When Peter is stuck down underneath the rubble and he's, understandably upset and is getting crushed and he's screaming out for help, it's a two-parter. The first one being he looks down into the water and he sees his mask and then half of his reflection, which is a great call out to an iconic item from the comics where you have the face half being Spider-Man and half being Peter Parker's. And that was a brilliant way to pull it off. And that's something that I've always wanted to see somehow pulled off in the movies, whether it be, with a spider sense or just, like a final shot, like something cool like that. So that was a brilliant way to pull it off. But right after that, Peter gets the motivation to lift the rubble up off of him. And it is the coolest call out to a very, very iconic moment from original Spider-Man comics, and that's the Amazing Spider-Man number 39, where Peter is trapped underneath this rubble and he has to get out because he has to save his Aunt May. Oh, it was amazing, and it was so emotional and well done on Tom Holland's part. I loved it so much. Not a lot of people would pick up on that, but to me, I noticed it exactly, especially with a little bit of water coming down over his head. Oh, so good and so well done. Let's talk Spider-Man super suit. I love the fact that it has technological advancements, AI, so lovingly called Karen, which, by the way, it's kind of an Easter egg in itself, but the voice of Karen is actually Jennifer Connelly, who is, in real life, Paul Bettany, aka Vision's wife. A husband and wife duo who have played AI, and they're both tied into Tony Stark and Iron Man. So it was a very nice touch. Just everything about that suit, I love it because it takes Spider-Man to a whole other level. Can't wait to see what other secrets that this suit holds, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Speaking of Tony Stark, I love how he was handled in this movie. He was only there when he needed to be. And I was really surprised that he was actually peppered in at these certain points of the film. I figured that he would be with Peter through a lot of the movie, providing him with guidance and, steering him away from the Vulture and things like that. But he was truly only there when he absolutely needed to be, and he never overpowered the film. He was only there when it made sense, and it was so good. I love to see the development of Tony in this film. He has become truly, in a lot of ways, a very strong paternal figure for Peter, and he even mentions it at one point when he's scolding Peter after the Staten Island ferry incident. My God, I sound like my father. And he even goes on later on to say that tough love was that exact push that he needed. So it was really heartwarming to see Tony all these years later starting out as this arrogant genius billionaire playboy philanthropist and turning into this true leader who invests in people and takes kids like Peter under his wing and wants them to be better than he ever was. This is truly the next generation of Earth's mightiest heroes, and you can see how proud Tony is of Peter by the end of this movie. Especially the surprise that Peter actually turns him down when he offers him spider armor and an actual spot on the Avengers. Peter says, this was a test, right? And I passed. And Tony's like, oh yeah, you passed with flying colors. And he turns around and says the kid actually made a really good moral decision, and that was kind of unexpected. So it was awesome to see that Tony wasn't actually just testing him the whole time. He was truly wanting him to join the ranks of the Avengers, and he couldn't believe it when Peter turned him down. But at the same time, he was proud of him. In a lot of ways, Tony has become Peter's, pseudo father. It was awesome to see how far Tony has come since the very first Iron Man film. It was great character development on his part. The next big reveal with Pepper Potts returning. That was such a pleasant surprise, and it warmed my heart to see Tony and her back together. I'm not gonna lie. Especially, with the comments that he made during Civil War, how they were taking a break, and he was visibly pained by that. It was great to see those two together again, and apparently getting engaged, so congratulations to both of them. What a way to end that movie, with Peter triumphantly getting his suit back from Tony, and then the camera pans around behind him to see Aunt May going, "What the?" So Aunt May clearly knows that Peter is Spider-Man now. I'm really excited to see where that particular storyline takes off by the time we catch up with Peter. Maybe even in Infinity War. Let's talk about that mid-credits scene. Oh man, we didn't kill off the Vulture. He clearly is still going to be a villain in a future film, and he had the perfect setup. He runs into Mac Gargan of all people. Mac Gargan is visually messed up. He's got like this crazy scar right here. His arm is all messed up, and yeah, that would happen when you get knocked off by a flying car off of a ferry in Staten Island in the squabble between Spider-Man and the Vulture. Oh man, he's got every reason to be mad at Spider-Man and want revenge. That's why Mac Gargan got arrested, and he's in prison as we speak. And when he catches up with Adrian Toomes in the prison, he tells him that he heard a rumor that Adrian Toomes knows Spider-Man's secret identity. And there's a group of guys he knows on the outside who would love to take Spider-Man down. And what I love is Adrian Toomes has such respect for Peter after saving him at the end of the film that he says, if I would have known who he is, he would have been dead by now. So he's protecting Peter's secret identity because he has respect for him saving his life. And I love that. Now that's not to say that he's not going to be a threat, he's not going to be Vulture, and he's not going to fight Spider-Man again, but he's not going to reveal his secret identity and put Peter in mortal danger either. I loved that. Not only are we going to get the Scorpion, but we're going to get the Sinister Six, ladies and gentlemen. The Sinister Six. We have already established 3 characters, 3 villains: the Shocker, Vulture, and the Scorpion. 3 down, 3 to go, guys. And judging by what Max says, I know a group of guys on the outside that would love nothing more than take Spider-Man down, he's referring to, who knows, the Rhino, Dr. Octopus, Kraven the Hunter, Mysterio, the list goes on and on. Maybe even Sandman, who knows? But we are getting the Sinister Six in a future Spider-Man movie. Now, whether that's Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3, either way, that is how you world build, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you have a slow burn and you establish these characters that have these great payoffs further down the road. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for my spoiler discussion of Spider-Man Homecoming. I hope I've covered all the Easter eggs. For all I know, there could be some that I missed. If I did miss any of them, let me know in the comments section below. But most importantly, I would like to know, what did you guys think of the movie? What was your favorite parts of the film? What nice little reveals or Easter eggs did you like the most from Spider-Man Homecoming? Let me know that in the comments section below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it and subscribe today. I am the Bearded Con Man. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And remember, Beard, be exceptional and rad dudes. We'll see you next time.